Welcome back, Sarah. It's a pleasure, of course, to have you here. And she will talk about beauty portraits. So last time you gave us, outdoor and indoor portraits. Today you're going to be, I think, introducing something more subtle, even more, I would say, pragmatically useful right now, here and now for your fellows out there. So what can you say about the next session?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me back. It's a huge honor always to be here. And it's always great fun as well. So yeah, I am going to be focusing on what I call beauty portraits. And I might digress slightly off that. We'll see how we go, because it's always a little bit of experimentation that goes on when we're here. I've got my beautiful model, Catherine, once again to help me, and my very good friend as well. And we're going to be using what is known as beauty lighting, but in a few different ways. So what do I mean by beauty? I don't just mean making somebody look beautiful, because you can make somebody look beautiful in many different ways. It's actually a genre of lighting. And traditionally speaking, it's used for advertising and commercial shoots. And in fact, it's my favorite go-to lighting setup whenever I shoot commercial. I shoot a lot of portraiture for commercial purposes. And this is the setup that I go to. Now, I usually use what's called a beauty dish. Now, it's called a beauty dish because it's used for beauty lighting. And the idea is to use a small light source, but with enough reflection or additional lighting to flood the face with light. And that's what makes it beautiful, because you're lighting up the face with a glow. So what is originally the genre of beauty lighting can be used for headshots, commercial shoots, anything where you want to make the subject look fantastic and make their skin glow. So, what are the elements of a beauty portrait in terms of the lighting that we're going to use? I am using a Godox AD300Pro, AD300Pro. It's firstly because it's my favorite light at the moment, mainly because I tend to shoot alone. It's light. It's small, I can take it around with me, and I often take it with me to the client premises for a commercial shoot. You can take it with you to a wedding, but it's got enough power to shoot a studio portrait. And in fact, I've shot entire commercial shoots at the client premises, pure beauty, selling cosmetics, for example, using a light like this. Now, I've chosen the 65 centimeter softbox because I want to keep it small. I want to mimic a beauty dish. Now, a beauty dish is usually a round dish with a silver or a white reflector inside. Here, I'm kind of mimicking it because I'm mixing the beauty light with portraiture. So I'm using this softbox. I've put a grid on it. It's quite small in terms of softboxes and as far as softboxes go. And I'm gridding it because I want to direct the light. Now, when I spoke before about flooding the face with light so that there are no shadows, you can do that, or you can get rid of the reflectors in order to sculpt the face. So you can really carve out cheekbones and create the classic Hollywood butterfly lighting, which is where there is a little central shadow under the nose. So you can fill that shadow with a reflector, or you can leave the shadow and let the shadow carve out the features. Now, with our beautiful model and musician, she's not just a model, she's also a musician, she has beautiful skin, she's young, and she's very beautiful naturally. So I'm going to really play with some shadow as well. But but I'm also going to show you how we can use a reflector to really give the face a glow. And it's a look that you'll see often in headshots as well. So it's something that you can take and really make it practical, using this setup, very, very simple setup, to create a great headshot. Now, the shadows work great for men. So if you're looking for a more masculine, rugged look, maybe lose a few of the reflectors and keep that kind of sculpted shadow look. So let's start just taking a few test shots. I've set this at 1/4 power, which just goes to show you how a 300-watt light can be used in the studio, and it should knock out the light. The settings that I have should knock out the light, the ambient light. Okay. Now, you might notice that I've got the light quite high, and I'm pointing it down. So remember that we want to create this shadow under the nose. Now, the only way we're going to get that is if the light is pointing down. And remember that our eyes are used to seeing light coming from above. The minute you start seeing light coming from below or too low down, something in our brains tells us something's off. So that's why if you shine a torch from underneath, it looks like a horror movie. It's because it's completely upside down. Our brains read it as being just wrong, completely wrong. So if we want to lower the shadow, give us quite a deep butterfly, we're going to raise it up. If we want to make it quite shallow, sometimes I'll lower the light so that it's much lower, so that there are barely any shadows at all if I really want to fill the face with light. So this is something that's under your control. It's not random, and it's something you need to think about and choose what it is what the effect is you're going after. So we are going to start with just some really simple, classic portraiture using this. If you notice that you might have seen me before shooting with the light off to the side, trying to create a Rembrandt light with a Rembrandt triangle. I'm going for something different here, although I might move it around later. I don't know. I'll see how we go. And we'll see if we can carve out some beautiful cheekbones and see what happens. And we'll play around with reflectors as well. So let's take a test shot. You might notice that I've got Catherine holding a grey card. So this grey card is so that I can get a perfect white balance afterwards when I put the pictures in Lightroom. I want to be sure that the skin tones are perfect, everything is spot on. And the easiest way, I have many different tools. I have a light temperature reader. I have things that I put on the lens to read the temperature of the light. I find this to be the simplest and the easiest thing. So I'm going to take a test shot with Catherine holding that. And that will be my reference later on when I load the pictures in Photoshop, in Lightroom, excuse me. Okay. So, as we have it, the light is, I'm just going to do a test. I'm going to turn off the light, and I'm just going to do an ambient light test to make sure. Okay, there's a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of ambient light bleeding in. I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference to the shot, so I'm just going to leave it there just so that you can see what we're doing. Otherwise, we'll be in the darkness. And take another test shot. Okay, let's turn this back on, and then we'll be all set. Okay. Okay, so if we just take a quick look, I don't know if you can see, but you can see that very even. If you go too close, it'll turn off. That's it. Se vai troppo vicino, si spegne. Okay. So we've got a very even light underneath the nose, which is exactly what I'm looking for. Remember that if the model turns her head at any point, then it's no longer straight on. So if I have Catherine turning her head this way, and I want to keep that butterfly light, I'm going to have to move the light around to follow so that her nose is in line with the light. Just remember that. So we've got a very, very clean, simple light. It's quite plain. You can take this away now. And now let's fill. Let's say that we want to, now if I look at this, I could say, okay, that looks okay, but it's a little bit flat in that the shadow isn't deep enough. I want a longer shadow underneath her nose. So I'm going to bring this a little bit closer so it's even higher. Okay, and let's see what happens with that. Okay. Okay, chin down slightly, that's it. So obviously if the model lifts her head, you're going to lose that shadow. Okay, I think we can still go even higher. So, yeah, we've got a nice shadow under the nose. It's looking quite Hollywood already, but I think we can experiment and go a little bit higher. Okay, come around straight on to me, Catherine. I just want to see your face. So, excuse me, let me just put my mask on. Okay. Okay, so keep your face straight to the light, because I'm really just looking for the light pattern at the moment. Okay. Così? Okay. Straight on at me, a bit more straight. Oh, okay. Okay, so now we can start to see the cheekbones? So there we're carving out those cheekbones, and that's coming because the light is coming from right down. It's quite gridded. Meaning that when I say gridded, now don't confuse the grid with a harder light. It's not harder, it's just narrower. Okay, so whereas before, and this softbox is angled quite narrowly in that it's not open like this, meaning that the light is going to spray outwards. It's already coming in quite tight, and then that grid is bringing it in even tighter. And there are some beauty dishes, there are some grids and beauty dishes you can get with a really, really tight grid. The tighter the grid, the narrower the beam, to the point that sometimes you can literally just have a little circle. So that very, very tight grid is going to give you like a little pool of light. Okay? Porta la sedia in avanti un pochino. So I'm bringing Catherine forward so that less light is hitting the backdrop. Okay? I want to darken down that backdrop. So I've done that just by, or I'm going to do that, fingers crossed, just by pulling Catherine forward away from the backdrop. Okay. Okay, now we're starting to get really Hollywood. You see, so we're really sculpting out those cheekbones. We've got a deep butterfly shadow under her nose, but attention, you don't want the shadow of the butterfly to touch the lip. Okay, that's when it starts to, it's no longer, you've gone out of the genre of that lighting pattern. So you need to make sure that that's staying there. But I really like this. This is really nice and high. We're carving out those cheekbones. Now let's look what happens when we start to turn this into a classic beauty shot, which is what I would use for cosmetics or accessories. What I've done is, in this case, I would be shooting very, very close on the face, so that's classic beauty. Very, very tight on the face. When you think of a cosmetic ad, something like that. Now let's take a test shot and see what happens. Okay, now we've got that glow that I was talking about. So that reflector has just kind of made that fade. We've still got the shadows carving at her cheekbones because she's got amazing cheekbones. But that was before, and that's after. So that silver reflector, it's quite a small silver reflector, it's quite aggressive, is bouncing up. And if we zoom in, okay, so here you can see there's the silver reflector there, and there's the light there. So you can see how high it is. You can barely, it's just a little, you can see a little clip of the light right at the top of the catch light, and then there's the reflector there. So it's almost as strong as another light. It's so powerful. Now if we wanted to fill in, if we wanted to just flood, let's say we were selling cosmetics where those pictures where, or a headshot where you don't want any shadows at all, and you want everything to be flooded with light because that really helps make people look good. What you can do is add either 2 reflectors either side so that we create a curve around our model, or there are triflectors, basins that sort of provide a reflector that cradles the light almost, and then bounces it back so that it all comes from all directions. I prefer to keep the reflector quite small and central so that we keep that carving out of the cheekbones. We've just got that extra glow. And if the silver is too strong, there's also a gold and golden silver, which I rarely use, but an old favorite in studios around the world is polystyrene. Okay, so, oops. We're in the mountains, we're in the countryside, that's what happens. So, here we're going to get a much softer reflection. Okay. Okay, so that's a much softer reflection. It's not as violent as the silver reflector, and it's also much softer in her eyes. Now let's see what happens if we turn it this way. Okay, we're making that reflector much broader, so it should fill in much more of her cheekbones. Yeah, it's a tiny difference, a little bit. A little bit, that's what you need to experiment with anyway. So, let's have some fun. Now, I usually stick with one light to keep things simple, but we can also add a second light. So let's try, first of all, a few poses. I'm going to bring this back very, 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 very slightly. Okay, so Catherine, bring your hair forward. Now I'm going to pretend now that Catherine is no longer a model. She's a musician, which she is. So she has come to me and she's asked me for something professional to put on her website, her social media, and she wants to look elegant and professional. So just comb out your hair a little bit. Okay. That's it, beautiful. Okay. Yeah, so we're looking really Hollywood. Can we just turn that chair around slightly on an angle? That's it, great. Mettiti, put yourself in the position you were in before. That's it, just have the chair going backwards. No, tu stai dove eri prima, la sedia lo giri, ok? No, non completamente, un pochettino. Ok, così, perfetto. Perfetto, benissimo. Ti puoi sedere un pochettino più sulla sedia? Ok, good, great, fantastic. Wonderful, and a little smile. Beautiful, so her hair is looking super glossy. She's got beautiful cheekbones. She looks really professional. And I like the way that the white chair kind of balances out her skin tone as well, so that's really interesting. Now, let's just for fun, let's add a second light. So I've got a Godox AD300 back here. And that's on a 32nd power. This one is on a 1/4 power. So let's just see what happens. It's not going to be as classic looking with the rim light on the hair, but it's going to give her hair a little bit of extra gloss. So that's that one, and that's without. That's with, that's without. So you can add a little pop of light to the hair if we want to. Okay, great. Now, Catherine, do you just want to take the chair away for a second, and we'll see if we can do some full-length shots? Okay, let's move this out the way. Okay, now, in theory, because the light is pointing down quite a lot, we should be able to get you all in. Back, okay, now forward, stop, okay. I just want to briefly mention my lens choice as well. So when I'm shooting faces, I like to use as long a lens as possible, because the longer the lens, the more the lens compresses the features of the face, and it's incredibly flattering. So if I were to put on a 50mm now, I would make sure that I'm far enough away to take a full-length shot. If I have a 50 or a 35, I'm never going to come up really, really close to the face, because it's going to distort the face, make the nose look larger and less attractive. So at the moment, I'm on sort of just under 100mm. I tend to find that to do portraits, let's say, up to just about the waist, I like to stay at about, looking sassy. Where am I now? I'm midway between 100 and 135mm. And if I were to go 3/4 length, I'd be out at 70mm. And then if I wanted to go full length, I would either just go back as far as I can, still using a 70, and I'm sitting down, because the longer the body is in the frame, the lower down I want to go. So now I can get her just about all of her body. Yeah. And we've still got this quite hard, dramatic light. I want you to come away from the background a little bit more. So I'm bringing her away from the background. I'm bringing back the light. Now the problem is when you don't have a boom arm, you do have this light. When you want this central light, you've got this light stand in the way a bit. So that might need to be photoshopped out later. So it's very useful to have a boom arm in these situations, so you can get a nice central light without it getting in the way. Okay, I think to get proper full length, I need to get my 50mm, but it's still looking very nice. Okay, now I want to try turning this off, because I feel like it's lighting up my background a little bit. Again. Okay, stay, that's it, nice and central. Bring the hands over, that's it. Okay, feet together, beautiful, okay. Okay, great. I feel like that's working nicer. Come forward again even more. Okay, great. So we've just got this really nice Hollywood glossy. That's going to look great in black and white. Really, really nice. So again, I really like this hard directional light for this type of look. If you want to soften it out, just add a reflector. If you want to make it really soft, add either a curved reflector or a triflector to just bounce light everywhere inside. You can also put another light down below on a much lower power. You can experiment and feel out what looks best for you, and use that in place of a reflector as well. Can you get your hat? Puoi prendere il cappello? Okay. E anche la sedia, you can take the chair as well. Okay, great. Come forward. So now we're just going to have a little bit of fun. Let's say that our musician has come and she's like, I've got my favorite hat. I really want to be photographed with my favorite hat. And I also love, I've seen this a lot in some beauty photographs. Okay, take the front of the hat, turn it round towards your nose. That's it, and angle it more, a little bit up, because now we've got a bit of an issue. We need to get up underneath that hat brim. So let's see if we can do that. Okay. Oh, I love it. Great. So I just need to balance out the hat, but what we're getting now is this great shadow being cast along one part of her face, which I really love. I need to do some adjustments, so. Okay. So what we want to see is one eye. Okay. Put that, yeah, that's it. Want that one hand inside, that's great. Yeah. So here we're just adding a little bit of interest, and I'm going to get right nice and close. Okay, turn your head slightly towards me, that's it. No, stay as you were, that's it. Put one arm up here, one down, just one up, that's it, great. And a little bit of shoulder. Okay, now we've got too much shadow. Lift your chin slightly. Alza il mento leggermente. Oh, I love it. Okay. So here we've got, aside from the light stand in the one corner, we've got the shadow just covering one eye, and we can just see the other eye. So I'm loving that. Slightly up, that's it. Another answer could also be to lower the light slightly. Chin down, allora verso di me un pochettino. Ok, e giù un pochettino, ok. Okay, so there's a little bit too much shadow being cast, so I'm just going to lower this a tiny, tiny little bit. That's it. Great, tilt the head. Lovely. Okay, so these fingers are very spread out. So just bring them, that's it, and relax them slightly. That's it, perfect. Okay, great. Okay, now put your hands down onto your legs, crossed over. Beautiful. And I'm just going to bring this around very, very slightly to this side so that we can really catch that eye. Lovely. Okay, that's it. I'm going to come in really close up on the face now because I'm looking for beauty, which means literally right on the face. Having a little bit of difficulty focusing, so just bear with me 1 second. Okay. Great. Okay, so stay there, don't move. I'm going to add a little bit of hairlight again. I'm not going for a million different looks. I'm micro adjusting it until I get exactly what it is I'm looking for. Okay, and a little knowing smile. Turn your head this way. Oh, this is lots of fun. Okay, but I need to nail that focus a little bit better. Oh, this is great fun. Okay, so if you can just see what I'm playing around with. Okay, so trying to get that one eye in shadow and the other eye free. Okay, do you want to take off your hat? And would you like to get your flute, okay? Because we want to really show off what it is this lovely lady does. Okay, now do you want to, let's try using, that's it. Can you hold the flute, kind of cradle it? That's it, beautiful. Cradle it in a sort of relaxed manner, that's beautiful. Okay. Okay, great. Can you cross your legs? Sit on the seat. Okay, cross your leg one over the other. That's it. Cradle your, that's it. Okay, and now get rid of the stool completely. Togli la sedia completamente. Get rid of the stool. And now I'd like you to hold the flute, that's it, in front of you like this. Really bend down into the pose. Bring the flute up higher and above your hair, davanti ai capelli, okay. Benissimo, okay, fantastic. Okay, wonderful. Okay, now we've been a little bit more serious. That's it, looking down. Okay, now look up at me. Head up a little bit. That's it, beautiful. Just clean your hair from the other side. Keep it round the back. Okay. That's it. head this way. Now, if we want to change the lighting pattern, all we do is move the light around. Okay, now we're on 3/4, now we're at a 45-degree angle, and let's see what happens. Okay, look straight at me, Catherine. Look at me, straight. That's it. Not like you're about to play it. Cradle it more, a little bit. Ecco, sì. Così, benissimo. Ok. Un po' più alto. Così, benissimo. And look straight at me. Okay, now we've got a loop lighting pattern, meaning the shadow is coming, instead of being straight now, I'll be able to show you in better tomorrow when where are we? I'll be able to show you, I'll be able to show you tomorrow better when we look in Lightroom. But just by moving the light this way, we've moved the shadow from the classic butterfly, the Hollywood look, into a loop, which just comes round to one side. Now, if we move the light round again, we should get, fingers crossed, a Rembrandt. And we have almost, but the backlight is too strong. So let me just lower that backlight. I can do it from my, okay. Still too strong. Sometimes you need to take a test shot just to lower it. Okay, so, allora, stai dritta, stay straight, okay, because if Catherine moves her nose towards the light, I'm not getting the shadows in the exact place that I want them. Little smile. That's it. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. Just because it's not always something I want to add. And if it's not adding to the image, sometimes you can have a stronger image with more shadows. And the one light, it doesn't get any simpler or more classic than that, and that's what we're after. Okay, right, so now we have, just by moving the light around, we've now got a really strong shadow that cuts through here. I'm going to take a few more like this. That's it. And I need to be low because I'm shooting Catherine up to about here, which means that my camera needs to be halfway cutting through the frame. So if I want to make her look really tall and elegant, I can go lower than that. And in fact, I think I'll do that. That's looking great. And it's also, I'm just checking, I'm looking close into her eyes to see, okay, I really like, a me piace molto quando va, I really like the way she's looking down at me, but now the light has gone so high, there's no catch lights left. So I want to have, even if it's just a sliver of catch light, I want to be able to see a little bit of catch light. So if I'm not seeing that, I know I've gone a little bit too high. And I'm going to feather it a little bit more. Feathering meaning I'm turning it away from the subject so the light is going across her face. And that should darken down the background even more. So you've got some good pictures for your resume now, huh? When the concerts start back up. Lovely. Okay, so now we've got a really strong Rembrandt. Chin up slightly. Mento su leggermente. Okay. Ok, bellissima espressione, ma un pochettino innocente. A little bit too innocent in your look. Okay, so a little bit more tightening in this muscle here in the eyes. Okay, a little bit more knowing and strong. You know what I mean? Okay. Okay, noble, strong, you are the Countess of the castle, okay? So that's it, beautiful. Lovely, lovely expression, fantastic. That's what I want. Okay, now can you take your hair all around the way the other side? Because the light's coming from that direction, so her hair is casting a little bit of shadow. Great. And now go a little bit fashiony on me with your flute. So sink into that's it. Sink into it slightly. Don't bring it too far towards me. Just sink down into it. That's it. And be a little bit languid, okay? Wonderful. Okay, down with your chin a little bit more. That's it. That's it. There, bring the flute towards you. Più verso di te. Okay. Okay, so we've gone from our classic butterfly all the way around to a Rembrandt. And how are we doing for time? It's 9:30. Okay. Just have a rest for a second. I want to try just changing our... Huh? Okay. I want to try something a little bit different. So we've been using this small softbox with the grid. I'm going to go to a wider softbox, giving us much more spread, a much softer light, which is a little bit more what I do for portraiture. And let's have some fun with that. So you can see how tiny and neat this, just tighten this up. Okay. Now, I have a grid on this one as well, just keeping it nice and directional. I might take that off. I'll see how we go. Which way around is it? Okay, there we go. Okay, so now let's bring this chair in. Faccio io. Sposti quello. No, lasciamo... Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to shoot. I don't normally shoot from above, but sometimes in a low seat, it's a look used quite a lot in fashion, shooting above when the subject is in a chair. So I'm going to utilize this a little bit. I'm just going to take a quick test shot to see how the framing looks. Okay, I like it. I'm going to try feathering a little bit more. And I want you to, that's it, look towards the light. Taking a test shot. Okay, now look past me in this direction. Great. Can you sit forward in the seat, sort of on the edge of the seat? That's it, great. So you can, okay, relax into the pose. Bring your knees over to one side, over in that direction, yeah. Le ginocchia in quella direzione, se riesci. So I want the chair going in that direction and her knees going in that direction. Okay, perfect. Great, 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 great. Now towards me, great. I'm going to bring this light over like this. So you see now I've gone from having it pointing right down at her, quite high and straight at her, to going right round to the side and shooting right across her. Ok, great. Now look straight at me, diretta a me. Benissimo. Incrocia le gambe. Ok. Ma riesci a... That's it. I don't want the knees coming direct towards me. Non voglio le ginocchia verso di me, quindi in quella direzione va bene. Incrocia le mani così. Benissimo. Okay. Now, the reason I've done this is because the result I'm getting is, first of all, the light is barely hitting the backdrop at all, so it's really darkened down. And we've got a much softer shadow now going across her face, almost a Rembrandt. Turn your head slightly this way. Okay. Chin down a little bit, looking at me. Okay, now straight at me. Now I'm going in really close and then I'm zooming out. So it's all about lighting patterns and the direction of the light on the face. That's what I'm interested in. Okay, now I'm going around even further. Okay, now look at me. Okay. Now I've got my Rembrandt again. Just want to do an experiment. I want to take a picture without any flash at all to see how much ambient is bleeding in. Tiny, tiny, tiny bit. Otherwise I would turn off all of the lights because the fluorescent might affect the colour slightly, but it's such a tiny amount that I think we're okay. And actually, if I want to knock out even more light, all I need to do is raise the power. And then close up my aperture a little bit. I was on f4. Okay, so now if I do the experiment, let me see if there's any light bleeding in. No. So let me just repeat what I just did. I had a little bit too much ambient light coming in that I didn't want because the color temperature is not the same. If it were daylight, it would be fine. But these lights are a different color temperature, so that's going to affect my color balance when I come to the post-production. So to knock that out, I just put the power up to half power on my AD300Pro. I stopped down my aperture to 5.6 instead of f4, and that was enough to just knock out any ambient light. I'm already at a shutter speed of 250th. So I could, okay, so this is really dramatic now. I'm loving this. Super dramatic. So we've gone from our initial beauty portrait, as I suspected. We've diverged slightly, but that's fine. Lovely. Okay, so you're looking really really professional.
So, do you prefer lower light from above?
Yeah, a little bit lower would be great. Yeah. Let me just check. No, that's fine.
That's fine?
Yeah. Okay. Now turn your head. Stay where you are, but just turn your head more this way. That a little bit less, a little bit less. Okay. Follow my nose with my finger. Stop. Okay. So a tiny micro movement, but that tiny movement is enough to get the shadow where I want it to be. Let me just check that it is. Yes, it is. And now I want you to put your hands on top of each other. Relax. Pull one hand back slightly. That's it. Great. In fact, the top hand, bring it back even further. That's it, because, okay. Can you bring the elbow back even more? That's it, but bring your hand inside. Elbow back even more. Even more, even more, even more. Let me mirror what I mean. That's it, okay. So what I'm looking for is a little bit of a space between her elbow and her body. So what was happening was her arms were alongside her body, and that just increases, especially as she's wearing all black, that just increases the overall bulk, whereas she's got this amazing figure, so I want to see her waist. So let me just go a step further with that. Okay, this hand, perfect. This hand, bring it forward. That's it, okay. Fingers downwards, bend the elbow slightly. That's it. So fingers not towards me, but down. That's it, relax them, relax them, relax them. Okay, bring the elbow back slightly. That's it. Because we want it to look natural. Now, unfortunately, when you're micromanaging the subject to this degree, they can get tense. That's completely normal. So it's our job to watch for every detail, and then when we've got it, relax them again. Okay, so again, these fingers have gone a little bit stiff, so relax them. Perfect, okay. Now we've got the shape I want. Okay, tension in the nose and in the mouth. That's it, beautiful. Okay, great. And a slight smile in the eyes. Not in the mouth, not in the mouth, just in the eyes. Okay, chin up slightly. Chin up slightly, mento su leggermente. Ok, un po' di tensione nel naso. Ok, sì, un po' meno. Ok. So I just told her to put a little bit of tension in her nose. That's it. Okay, and now put your legs like this and then cross your legs. Try to keep the knees in that direction as much as possible, not where they were before. Do you need to move the chair? If you need to move the chair, that's it, that's it, that's it. Okay, great. Okay, wonderful. Cut like that. Beautiful. Okay, now can you pull your hair up? Yeah? Just going to get her to, she's got such a wonderful long neck. I really want to see her shape now. And I'm going to, while she's doing that, I'm going to remove this grid. How are we doing for time? So, removing the grid, what's that doing? As I said before, what the grid does is it doesn't harden the light, doesn't harden or soften the shadows. So I haven't softened the shadows by taking the light away. What I've done is you can see the shape of the softbox. The light follows the direction of the softbox. Now the grid pulls it in. What I've done is taken that away so that we've got more light spraying everywhere. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit less dramatic, or should be. Okay, great. So turn around. This way, great, and wonderful. Let's go back up to standing. Thanks. No, we need to leave it there. Okay. Now, I think our light is a little bit too low now because she's standing up, so let's raise that up. Okay, now the grid actually takes away quite a bit of light, so I now need to lower the light power, which is great. Okay, wonderful. Okay, now let's go back to let's bring the light back round to the center. Now we're going to light this light is going to hit the backdrop quite a bit. That's it. Okay, great. Let's bring this back slightly. Remembering to move downwards. Okay, so now we've got our butterfly light back again. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to experiment with, this is what I often do. I just put the reflector on the floor, and any light that's hitting the floor is just going to bounce back up into her face. Beautiful. Okay, so now she's glowing all over the place. So that reflector has made a massive difference. I'm going to go tight in on her face. So we're back to beauty now. Beauty meaning we're flooding her face with light. Okay, turn your shoulder even more. That's it. Turn towards me. Relax. That's it. This arm, bring backwards slightly. Okay, because this arm was coming in front of her belly, and so was making her look wider. Now it's going down her body, and I can see her shape. Wonderful. Okay, and now, just for fun, can you get your flute again? Yeah. Okay, so Catherine's just going to put her hair up so that we can see her neck. So we're going to have her put her hair up. Okay, so just need to sort this out very slightly. Now, being a retoucher, I want to get this right now because 30 seconds now can save me an hour later. Okay, that's looking perfect. Okay, great. Okay, let's see these curves sink into your hip. That's it. Hold your, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Stand, how do you feel natural holding your, standing like a boss and holding your flute? Huh? Stai lì come il capo del mondo, tenendo il flauto. Okay, wonderful. Hold the flute close to your body, down a little bit. That's it, perfect. Okay, chin up slightly. Okay, beautiful. Okay, now a little bit more tension in the eyes, a little bit more expression in the eyes, okay? Nice tension in the nose and in the mouth, strength coming from the eyes, okay? That's it, close your eyes. Think of someone you hate, and then look into the camera. I'm kidding. Close your eyes, think of someone you love, and 1, 2, 3, open, and okay, beautiful. That's looking great. Okay, now hold your flute with both hands. Now what I'm looking for here, she's got this great backdrop. The dress is like a backdrop to the flute. So cross your legs, hold your flute with both hands. That's it. Put the flute on a diagonal. That's it. Yeah, perfect. Sink even more into the thing. Elbow out. This elbow. That's it. Okay, no, the other elbow like that. Wonderful. This hand is a little bit awkward. How would you hold it? Maybe come down slightly. I just need the elbow out slightly. That's it. Beautiful. So the dress, her shape is like a backdrop to the flute. And I want to make sure that all of the shapes are working. I've got this light stand in the way, unfortunately, but hey ho, I'll fix that. Looking great. Okay, I'm going to go back. I'm just going to swift this light around. This time I'm going to go over this side. I've always put the light over that side, but for no reason whatsoever. So I'm going to live dangerously, and I'm going to go put the light on the right-hand side. Okay, let's try the exact same pose with just the light placed differently. That'll be interesting to see. Okay, close your eyes. That's it. Think of someone you love, something you want to say to them. Bam. Okay. It's looking great. Now, to feather this slightly, I want this a little bit softer. That was super dramatic. So I'm going to put this here. Okay. And again, 1, 2, 3, and go. Beautiful. Okay, I'm missing something. That's it. Leave your hand up at the top. Turn it around. That's it. Beautiful. Just touch the flute slightly. Beautiful. And look at me. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. Lovely. So this is just real classic portraiture, and I'm trying to communicate what it is Catherine does and make her look super professional at the same time, using classic lighting techniques with one light. I say one light, and I might put the second light on in a second. See how I feel. Okay, turn your head around this way. Exactly the same. That's it. Exactly the same with your hand, but that way. That's it. Okay, a little bit of tension in the eyes. Look in the direction of your nose. That's it. Okay. Now, just for fun, how are we doing for time?
15 minutes.
Okay. Yes, let's see. Let's have some fun. Hang on a sec, I'm getting a little bit too close. Let me get my mask. Okay, just move out of the way, Catherine. It's Spostity. That's my light stand. Okay, come and stand in front. Okay, I need to lower it slightly. Okay, I'm going to take a test shot, see what comes. See what comes. Okay, put your flute down for a second. Just relax with your flute and just stare straight ahead while I look at the light and what's happening. Okay. I'm going to lower my light slightly. Let's put it down to 1/8. Step forward, Catherine. That's it, look straight ahead. And let's try here. Okay, that's it. I can take this off now. Okay, now, exactly, bring the flute up and just touch it to your head, but I need you to maintain the profile. So keep the profile, that's it. Just touch it to your head as if you were just resting it and relax into it, that's it. Okay, and close your eyes, you're pensive. Okay. And I need you to come back with your shoulders and then come forward with your chin, okay? So that you're lengthening the neck. That's it. Lengthen the neck though, don't slouch. Go back, go forward, so you're really stretching the neck out. Okay, that's it. Relax the flute more. You're kind of pointing it to your head a little bit too much. So just rest it against your head as if you're just contemplating this wonderful instrument. Okay. Stay there 1 second. So I'm trying to center Catherine exactly where I need now it's a little bit too low. This is what it's like working alone, a lot of walking back and forth. Okay, perfect. Wonderful. Lower your chin slightly and bring the flute down. Bring the flute down towards you. That's it. And rest your head. That's it. So we're going for a slightly alternative, sort of creative branding portrait here. Something a little bit different. Maybe she'll like it. I hope Catherine will like it. Great. Okay, now take away the flute, and we'll just do the same just with you, okay? So just give you an idea what we're playing around with. We'll take a look at that properly tomorrow. Okay? So let's try something similar. Nice long neck, really long neck. I can only see your silhouette. Come towards me slightly. And just try a finger. Other hand? Other hand? That's it. I'm at a kind of an awkward angle where I have to go like this. Head forward, Catherine. Forward like this. That's it. Bring your whole, you're a little bit like this. Come forward like this. More, that's it. Great. Can you hide your other hand? Nascondi l'altra mano. Okay, your posture, straighten up. Okay, and now just come forward like this and bring both hands up. That's it. A little bit less, a little bit. Stand up straight. That's it. Like that. Okay, take a little step forward. Little step forward that way. That's it. Right. Beautiful, beautiful. Nice long neck, long neck. Tira su, tira su, tira su. And close your eyes. Okay, now put your hands here against your chest. Okay, beautiful. Lovely. Okay, now I'm just going to explain briefly. What I've been trying to do here is get a silhouette. And to do that, I needed to bring Catherine away from the light. Now what I'm going to get her to do is to go close to the light so that the light kind of bleeds over her face. So go a little bit close to the light, okay? Turn, that's it. A little bit closer, that's it. And let's take a test shot. Okay, little tiny step forward that way, that's it, yeah. Close your eyes and look up slightly. Look up slightly. Guarda su. Make more sense if I take the mask off. Oh, I love it. Okay, hands down. Hands down. Mani giù. Hands down. Okay, now stai lì. And again with the flute, but this time close to the... And I think we're nearly finished after that. Okay, that's it, great. Rest it against your forehead, contro la fronte. That's it. Beautiful. Stay there because she's closer to the light. I need to lower it slightly. The angle has changed. Okay. Okay, so now we've got the light bleeding. I'm just going to show Catherine. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Great. Okay. So, how are we doing for time? Anybody? It's 10 o'clock.
4 minutes to go.
I'm done. Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much to Catherine and to Godox for providing the great lights that I've been working with for so many years. And how have you enjoyed it? Yeah?
Quanto
It's been
tempo
okay?
rimane?
Good, okay. We've done lots, we've done everything from backlight to butterfly light to Rembrandt light. So, and you've got a lot of pictures for your musician work. Let me put my mask on, move this. Okay, we're done.
All right. So, you know, I was around browsing everywhere, trying to take some pictures because honestly speaking, I saw things and magic happening tonight as well as usual. You also named the Countess, things that actually took me by surprise, but yeah, not so much in reality because you're right, especially with this side dressing. You really resemble me, the last Countess of the castle. So it's a sort of, you know, magic happening tonight. And speaking about magic, and since we have a couple of minutes, Catherine, I'm sorry to improvise this, but you know what I'm going to end up. Would you mind to give us a couple of minutes of your artistry? That would be fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today with us. You're lovely. You're a very capable model for Sarah and Mauricio. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And welcome back. As I promised you, we are going to dive in the first photo critique of the day with Sarah Edmunds. So yesterday, Sarah had the opportunity to shoot our model Catherine all around the castle, inside, outside, but the main shooting was in the shooting bay here on the first floor, and you possibly saw how to create the magic in a beauty portrait. So Sarah, it's now the time to dive in your artistry, your imagery, and see what you actually could carve out from the shooting of, you know, that you had with Catherine. I saw something already. I won't spoil, but I saw something that actually gave me goosebumps. So enjoy the next hour with Sarah Edmunds. Sarah, thank you for being with us today as well at the Castle Ceconi for Imaging USA Virtual Show 2021. Sarah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Welcome everybody. And we're so happy to be able to come to you in your homes, even though we can't all be together. But even though we can't all be together, please, I want this to be an interactive thing. So if you have questions or you want to participate, please just fire the questions away and somebody will get them to me as I'm working. I would love to answer them.
Sì, l'abbiamo messa perché aveva bisogno.
So, this is a critique. I love the way that it's called a critique and not a presentation, because that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to look at everything I shot, and it's always a bit high pressure shooting in front of a camera, in front of everybody live, so you never really know what you're going to get. But the opportunity here is that we can all learn from things that worked and things that didn't work, and you can decide for yourself what you want to take away from it, what you think worked and what you want to use in your own work. So my aim was to take classic techniques to create a classic portrait, using what is known as classic beauty lighting techniques that you can then apply in a different manner to, for example, headshots or commercial work, which is what I do in my own work. And yeah, as Dario said, I also took the chance during the day because we were shooting late at night, so there was no daylight whatsoever, so it was studio only when we were live with you. I grabbed Catherine and we went for a little recce and went around the castle to grab a few shots. So if we have time, I'd love to show you what we came up with because we had really good fun. So let's take a look at, I'm going to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. But we'll start off with what we did in the studio so that we can see what worked, what didn't, why I was going after what it was I was trying to achieve, because this is really important, shooting with intention, I believe. Rather than just sticking up a light, flashing away and jumping around all over the place trying to see what works. What I've tried to do myself over the past few years is to slow down and try to ensure that I'm getting what I want from the shoot. Now, clearly in a real life shoot with a client, it's going to be a lot longer. I'm going to be shooting over a lot longer period and not just an hour. So what we're going to see is fairly limited in that we didn't have any costume changes or anything like that. We used a few cheeky props to liven things up. And as Catherine is actually a musician, I really wanted to use that and try to give her something that she could use in her career as well. So let's take a look at where we started. Okay, so here are, actually I'll go forward a little bit. I just took a few test shots before we started with the hat. I was just testing out my lighting sessions. And as you see here, I'm very happy with the lighting setup as it's working at the moment, but obviously we haven't got the expression or anything, any kind of composition going on. But I was just testing out what I was going to do. And then I realized that what I really wanted to do was create a one-eye effect. So we had one eye hidden. And Catherine absolutely loved this shot. So the client loved this shot and she can't wait to have it, which is always great. Here I did a quick Lightroom conversion. So I'm known, as I'm also a retoucher by profession and not only a photographer, I also retouch and edit for other photographers. I'm known for my fine art, detailed, sometimes quite elaborate retouching when it comes to portraiture, but that's not always necessary. As you can see here, all I've done is I love the film noir look of this, and I love the fact that even though it was a test shot, because it was a test shot, she's looking quite stiff, and that's fine because it really suits the image, I think. So here I've used my own black and white preset. I love a really, really punchy black and white. So I always really up the contrast. Now, you need to be careful. So let's look at the histogram. Whenever I'm working, I always keep an eye on the histogram if it's going to be printed. Because if it's not going to be printed, it's fine. All we care about is what it looks like online. And very often, we don't care if the black's got a pure black. That's fine, as long as it's a considered choice, if that's what you've chosen to do, and it's not a mistake, so that when you come to print, you say, why is there 3/4 of the image black? And you don't understand why. So in this case, I can see that by just hovering over the little arrow at the bottom of the histogram, I can see that we've got a lot of pure black in the image. So I've probably gone a little bit too far with the contrast. So if I were to print this, I'm going to assume that we are. Let's take a look at the before and after. So this is the straight out of camera shot on the left. And if we look at that, we can see that actually if we bring, as it's slightly underexposed, all we have to do is just raise the exposure slightly and all of the detail will be there. And we're working in RAW here. This is Lightroom, this isn't Photoshop. So we've got plenty of of leeway here. It just so happened that I wanted to make this look very film noir. I've made the decision to let a lot of it go to black because I'm not interested in what's going on in Catherine's dress here. All I'm interested in is her face and her hair and the shape of her hat. So that's why I've made that deliberate choice. If I wanted to get detail in the blacks, we would need to bring down the contrast, possibly bring up the exposure and the shadows, or just start again. So that's the reset. And here you can see we've got a tiny little bit of clip blacks, but all we need to do to bring it into Photoshop is just recover what we've lost. Maybe bring down the highlights slightly so that, because we've got a contrast between a very, very pale skin and this all black outfit. So there are two ways of working in Lightroom. One is how you saw the image before, the black and white, in that that's my finished piece. I'm going to put that on Instagram. It's got that black and white noir feel, really contrasty and punchy. It's ready to go. I export it as a JPEG, I publish it, it's finished. That's it. A completely different process happens if I'm going to be retouching, in which case I use Camera Raw or Lightroom, it's the same thing, they have the same tools, to prepare the image for retouching, and then I put the final contrast and finishes in black and white in Photoshop. Why do I do that? We have the entire range of information in the raw file only while we're still in Lightroom or Camera Raw. The minute we open in Photoshop, all of the decisions that we've made in Camera Raw or Lightroom get baked in. So all of the detail that we've decided not to use, all of the highlight detail we've decided not to use gets thrown away, gets discarded and opened in Photoshop. So the idea is to, if we're preparing for print, especially the kind of print where you want to see every detail in the black, what we want to do is recover as much as possible. Now in this case, you can even use, you see here now we've just got a tiny little bit of clipped blacks. You might want to consider if that's important to you or not. You decide. And it could be that just to bring up that little piece, we just use a brush because we don't want to use a global adjustment that's going to affect her face. And let's see now. Okay, now we have no clipped shadows whatsoever. Okay, so going back to, let's look at the history. See if we can find, okay, there we go. So that was the look I chose for that particular image. Let's go through. I left that in just to show what a beautiful smile Catherine has. What a sweetheart she is. Okay, so my green card, and let me just show you why I use this, the green card. That's to get into America. Sorry, I meant the grey card. The grey card, there is a card that is 18% grey, and it enables us to, in Lightroom, to pick our neutral simply by clicking on that spot. Now, my screen is calibrated. It matches my editing monitor perfectly. This is my laptop that I carry around with me, but it's calibrated. My editing monitor is calibrated regularly, and this laptop matches that monitor perfectly. So calibration is important, but our eyes can still play tricks on us. This means that that is her correct skin tone. These blacks are pure black. So this is a really easy way. If you're shooting in the studio, you've got one click, and we now look at our color temperature, and we can see that that is the setting for the entire shoot. It makes things really, really simple. Now, I like to err on the side of cool. So it depends what it is. Once you've found your pure, neutral white balance, you can then play around as you like. You might like things slightly warmer, you might like things slightly cooler. I tend to like things slightly cooler. So I like a slightly cool image, so I will drop that very, very slightly, and we'll move on from then. So these are our initial test shots, just using one light. I wanted to keep it simple. And here I was demonstrating how the shadow can be used to carve out the features of the face. So this is the ultimate classic lighting setup. One light. I was using a Godox AD300Pro, which is, as you can see, perfectly adequate for the studio. One light, 300 watts. And it's a tiny little thing, battery operated, and I take it outside, inside. I use it in the studio, I use it outside, as I'm going to show you soon. Here we have the perfect little butterfly underneath her nose. As you'll see, it just takes the tiniest movement of the head to alter that perfect shadow. So we'll see later on how that works. Here we did a few more test shots. Here I showed how without a reflector, we're carving out, keeping the light quite high, we're carving out her cheekbones. So I didn't want to fill in her face because that's going to make her face look round. Now that might be something you want to do, especially with an older subject. You want to fill the light with fill the face with light and flood the face with this beautiful light that's going to fill in any wrinkles, any bumps in the skin. You might choose that you want sculpture instead, in which case you might need a little bit of extra retouching afterwards, or it's a very young model subject or someone with perfect skin. And I think I showed you in the, so again, this is, let me just go back. There's a little bit of lag on the computer. This is the before and after. So this on the left is straight out of camera, and on the right is with just a few Lightroom adjustments. Very, very little done there. You can see I've brought down the highlights very, very slightly, brought up the shadows very, very slightly, deepened the blacks a little bit, maybe a little bit too much. So what often happens is that for our eyes, we like a punchy look, and that's fine. As a retoucher, I often get requests saying, don't worry about the blacks. I want it nice and punchy. I don't mind if the blacks block up. That is the prerogative of the artist, as long as it's an informed choice and you know what you're doing. When I say know what you're doing, meaning you have decided that that's what you want to do. So this is the before and after in Lightroom. To prepare for retouching in Photoshop, I would just lighten the shadows slightly just to recover enough detail in the blacks. Because once I'm in Photoshop, as I said, we want to keep as much information as possible so that when we open in Photoshop and everything that we haven't kept has been thrown away, we've got as much left to play with as possible. And we can always add contrast. It's very difficult to take away the contrast. So once the information's gone, it's gone. So if I were to deliver that straight away to my subject, I'd probably leave it like that. The black's nice and deep, even if they're clipped a little bit online. If this was going to be for print and it was going to go on to be retouched in Photoshop, then I would lift up those blacks very, very slightly to ensure that nothing is, or very, very little is clipped. If anything is clipped, it needs to be something that you're absolutely not interested in. If it's a tiny corner of down in the corner of her dress, then you're probably going to, or you possibly might take the decision that that's not important to you. That's absolutely fine. So this is without the reflector. We then went to take a look. I zoomed in a little bit more. Again, no reflector. I'm going for hard shadows. You can see how hard that shadow is underneath her nose. I want to carve out these cheekbones. The sacrifice we make is that her porcelain skin, we can see every little lump and bump. So if we want to shoot fast and furious, reflection is going to be our friend. If you're happy to do a little bit of retouch, then you need to choose which one you want to go for. Now, this next one is the one we did with the silver reflector right underneath the light. And you can see the difference there. The silver reflector is so strong that it looks almost like a light in itself. Okay, we've still got the cheekbones carved out, but you can see that immediately that glow, and it gives that real headshot look, that real glow. It brings a real life to the eyes. It really lights everything up. The next one we tried was with the white reflector, which is personally my favorite. I like the silver reflector if I'm going for something really punchy and I'm selling beauty. There's going to be a lot of retouching. Look how soft and lovely this one is. She's got a beautiful soft expression. Let's look at the catch light. Here we've got the polystyrene filling in, and the light is still really high, giving us this nice carving out the cheekbones. The shadow's a little bit deep, we're almost touching the lip line, so we need to be careful because all she needed to do was just bring her nose down slightly for it to be off where I wanted it to be exactly. And here is the result of the retouch of this one. Or is it? No, it's the next one. This one. Okay, there we go. So that's with the white reflector, and that's the retouch version. So here, what I was going for is a really glamorous Hollywood headshot. So a headshot with total Hollywood glamour to it. And we can take a look at what I did with that. If I can, I need to go and find, I need to scroll through. Let me find the number. What number is this? 556. No, it's not let. So let's open it and we can take a look at what I did. Okay, edit original, we'll be able to see the layers. That's another shot of Catherine as we were wandering around the castle. So while that's opening, let's carry on through. And then we moved out. Okay. Another super professional, elegant headshot for a lawyer or professional. So the same beauty principles can be applied to a really professional looking headshot, but that's got real punch to it. Okay, this was, I kept this in just to show why I wouldn't keep this, this shot. This hand here and the other one, it's just not working. It's looking a little bit awkward. We're adding bulk to her frame. And so this goes on the reject pile, even though I flagged it to show you. This is why I wouldn't choose it. This hand is just bringing all of our attention down, and that really needs to be placed in a better way. By me, not by the subject, okay? Same with this one. Here we're starting to get a beautiful shape. This hand here, I needed to pay a little bit more closer attention to and have it tucked in. Oops, okay. Placed much more elegantly on her hip. But I really love the top part, and I think that's worth cropping in on. Moving on, we're going full length. And as you can see, that really small softbox was still quite enough to do a full length shot. The grid and the small size of the softbox is giving us this really punchy look, which I really love. And if you can see here, there's hardly anything done to the settings. Before and after, this is pretty much straight out of camera. I've just cooled it down a little bit. If we remove the light stand, turn it to black and white, it's gone super fashion and super Hollywood. Moving on, okay, here we're starting to get the pose is starting to look better. I would prefer that hand more on a diagonal, a little bit more expression in her eyes, but I'm loving that light is just really looking so glamorous, and her shape and her hair is all working, starting to come together really well. Okay, here as well, her expression is bang on. So you can see here, it's a little bit blank. Here her expression is just straight on, it's going straight down the camera, it's hitting us right between the eyes. What don't I like about the picture is her hands. I should have got her to either fold them into each other, put them on the side. I rarely have the backs of the hands showing. I was so busy looking at all different things that skipped my attention. So, but in a real life setting, that is something that I would fix. Beautiful expression. Again, I'm not happy about the hands, so I would probably crop this. I would probably crop these out and just have her hair and her head and shoulders. Then we moved on to, how are we doing for time?
25 minutes.
25 minutes. Oh, I better get a move on. Okay. So then we started to have fun playing around with the hat, and what I wanted to do was just to create something glamorous, edgy, and fun using exactly the same light. And here what I've done, I very rarely do this. So that's the before and the after. I've just turned it to black and white, done a few Lightroom settings. There's no retouching gone on here. But what I've done here is I did a huge crop. Now, I hardly ever do this. I always crop in camera. However, I saw that I didn't like the hand. I could see the palm of the hand here. And I thought that cutting in like this was much more interesting. So this is something I would love to work on in more detail. I'd love to clean up the hair a little bit, clean up the skin, and I think that one's going to come out great. This is another one. This is great fun. Now, unintentionally, I've cut off her eyes, but I think it kind of works. I really like that. Another one with a little bit of a smile, and I've applied this film noir look to it. This is my own preset that I made, just some very simple, some simple customizations to the Adobe monochrome black and white. I've applied a slight grain. Now, be aware, grain, now if you can, you see, once it's loaded, there's not very much grain at all. Be aware that grain is very destructive. So if you've got a super sharp lens and you've just got this beautiful clean lighting and you can see every little detail, and then you slap a heavy grain filter over the top, you're basically destroying all of that fine detail and that sharpness that you've captured in camera. So it can look great. Grain also works wonders on skin. So if you put a grain all over the picture, it will smooth out wrinkles, it'll make everybody look fantastic. However, it's extremely destructive, so use with care. This is a raw image, so there's nothing destructive has gone on here. I haven't opened it in Photoshop. I'm just playing around and seeing what looks good. And I think that the grain suits that film noir look. So here, this is, yeah, I've hardly done any changes here. I've just made it a little bit cooler, darkened it slightly. I'm going to work on this one, I think, because I think this one, retouched, is going to look great. Moving on quickly. It's so easy, just with the tiniest little tilt of the head. That's why you always need to keep an eye on what is going on in your camera and not just shoot, 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 because you need to be seeing if it's working or not. There's another one that I love where you can just see a tiny little hint of her eye. Moving on. This was all during our live session yesterday. Okay, and then we changed up completely. And I used a bigger softbox. I wanted to flood the face with light a lot more and make it a little bit softer. Here I've applied a black and white again. Let's look at the before and after. Here we've got this nice soft light that's really filling in. We've got, we've lost those really, really hard dramatic shadows. I wanted to have something a little bit softer. And then we started to concentrate on her shape and placing the flute in a diagonal so that the whole thing worked as a composition. Then I moved the light around. I wanted to get a Rembrandt light. I'd been focusing on the butterfly lighting for almost the entire session. All I did was move the light around 45 degrees. If you move it around slightly, you get a loop light. If you move it around even further, you get a Rembrandt light. And all that happens is that the shadow of the loop, if you continue moving the light around to the side, the shadow joins the shadow across the chin. And the aim is to get this triangle. And here we've almost got it. It's kind of it's nearly meeting it, but it still works. I think this still makes a great picture, and this is one of the series. Okay, this one I like with her hand touching the top. And I love her expression in this one, so I'm going to choose this one to process for Catherine. This is the fashion model in Catherine coming out. She's done a lovely fashion pose here, which I think works beautifully. My only regret with that one is that she's turned her head so that we've got broad lighting, meaning that the largest side of the face that we can see has all of the light. I would have loved it if she'd turned the other way, or if the light had been on the other side and we could have had short lighting. It's just, I prefer the drama of the short lighting, but I still think it works great. The important thing is that her nose hasn't passed her cheek line. If it had, I would have binned it. So I've asked her to move around to face the camera. The expression I'm not entirely happy with. And then we moved on to this. I had this sudden idea that I wanted to create a silhouette just by moving the softbox round to the back of her. Now, because it's quite a small softbox, it's only 85 centimetres, we created this sort of moon effect. So what I would love to do is I would just clean up the edges so that it looks like a perfect circle and work on that a little bit more in Photoshop. And here you can see I've just increased the contrast slightly to try to create more of a silhouette and play around with it a little bit more. But you can see, if you can imagine me just cleaning up the side of the round part of this softbox. I could also try to extend it, make it all white, but I think it's much more dynamic with this round. It almost looks like a moon. Here I've let the light bleed through slightly, and then I decided to do that even more. If we move on to the next ones, here I'm just trying to get some pure silhouettes. Okay, so what I did here was I got her to step closer to the light so that the light would wrap around her and we would get some light bleeding. And in fact, you can see it's just touching her cheek and moulding her body slightly. So it's a completely different look. And again, I love this round, she's standing against the moon look. This is a crop. I was trying to find the right crop that would work with this one. So that's the full-size one. So I would say this is a really interesting play on a headshot, you know, a musician, but she wants something a little bit more artistic. So in the same session, all I did was move the softbox around, and all of a sudden, bam, we've got something that looks a little bit out of the box that she can use. There's another one. This is one that I'm gonna work on for my subject. I'm gonna clean this up, make this look like a moon. I'm gonna make sure her silhouette, we can see the line of her silhouette there. I'm gonna tidy up the bun of her hair slightly. And that is our live session. Now I'll just go back slightly and show you what we started to play around with outside. So we went outside, and bear in mind, these haven't been worked on at all. I've done a few exposure adjustments, but I've included the ones that don't work. Now, here my problem is she's not standing out enough, and she's not positioned properly. We've got 3 arches here, we've got our statues here, and she is in the wrong place. I've put her in the wrong place, or I've put myself in the wrong place. This was a test shot. So now I've tried to place her in the middle arch, in between the statues. This is starting to work a little bit better. And now I've decided to move her off to, instead of centering her, I've decided to move her off center a little bit. Now in post-production, what I would like to do is just give, let me see if I can, I was working on one when we just started. There's some of the others. So I was full of great intentions in retouching all of these this morning, but okay. So here you can see what I've done is just I've darkened down the background a little bit and I've lightened up the subject. So that's the straight out of camera. I've also just straightened up the building somewhat. I'm a bit of a stickler for vertical lines. Got a thing about them. So yeah, I wanted to get the building in the background. We had some cars parked, so when that happens, you need to just arrange your framing slightly. And then I went on to my favorite, which is just focusing on the subject and letting the background blend out a little bit. It's lovely to have a beautiful landscape, but I'm all about the subject, and inevitably I'll do one that for example, at a wedding, sometimes you have to. I shoot at a beautiful lake, and the clients always want a beautiful lake shot. But it'll usually be one, and the rest of them tend to be very, very portrait focused. That's just what I do. So here we're just playing around. There's a lovely pensive Catherine. And I personally really love those shots where we're focusing on the subject and we've got that shallow depth of field in the background. That's my style. It's something that I love. We went for a walk around the castle. We saw this fresco on the ceiling, and I was trying to find interesting ways of framing Catherine and also managing to get a little bit of fresco in as well. Here I'm just using exactly the same lighting setup as I did in the studio. I'm just walking around, taking my AD300Pro around with me with the softbox. It's exactly the same lighting patterns. Here it's a Rembrandt light, so I've got the light off to one side. Exactly the same. I'm just walking around and I'm shooting outside and inside. A nice full length of Catherine. Again. These haven't been worked on, clearly. These are just straight out of camera. We saw this great chair and thought, let's have some fun here. Now I had my AD200 with a blue gel on it, and I thought, okay, let's experiment a little bit. I'm not one for gels and that kind of thing usually, but as it was such a plain black dress, white chair, white wall scenario, I just thought I'd give it a try and see what happened. So that's just I'm using my AD300 as my key light. Coming from the left, you can see the shadow. I'm using short lighting. I'm shooting into the shadows, and then I've got the blue gel light shooting against that white wall, and it's just giving that sort of cyan reflection. Okay, and now I just tried to go a little bit wider, showing that open door just to give a little bit of depth. She looks like a very super professional lady here. Okay, and then we went up to the tower. And when I saw these mountains, I thought, okay, I absolutely have to show off my beautiful model against these mountains. Now, what I've been trying to do is carefully place her either outside or inside the mountains. Okay, so here I've deliberately I'm using negative space. I'm putting her right down in the corner, and I'd probably crop this a little bit to make her even more in the corner. But I'm trying to use the mountain to frame her. Now I'm trying to use the sky to frame her. I've got her to lean forward slightly because I'm actually lying on the floor in the snow at this point. Again, these are not retouched, these are just straight out of camera. Here I wanted to get the turrets in a little bit and then use the mountain to frame her. And then I've switched to my favorite 70 to 200mm lens. And I'm using I've got my AD300Pro with the 65 centimeter softbox gridded coming from the right. And again here I've tried to put her down in the third, so I've got lots of negative space with the snowy mountains in the background. Okay, I kept this one in just to show you what it looks like without the light. That's with the light, without the light. Catherine wanted a few fashiony shots, so we just did some stuff for her. Again, same light, nothing has changed. It's all very simple, one light. Here I've added my blue gel. And we're back to the beginning. Now I just wanted to show you some okay, so this is one of my favorites that I'm going to work on, and this is another one that I'm going to work on. But I hope you found that useful, and I'd like to know if there are any questions.
So Sarah, when you say I'm going to work on it,
Yes.
what do you mean exactly? Well, what do you have in mind?
What I have in mind is...
Because you do editing as well, right?
Yes, okay, so editing is, what I call editing is what happens in Lightroom. So Lightroom raw adjustments. If a photograph, I think, deserves special attention, I will open that photograph in Photoshop, and I will do a careful skin retouch and color grade in Photoshop. That's what I mean.
Okay, are you planning to print anything out of this service?
I think so. I think the answer is yes.
I might sound interested in that, but yeah, you know what I mean. Because I saw, pictures in this shoot that actually really would deserve something unique printed either ways on a wallet or on a fine art paper. Because I know exactly seeing these files, which we stress again are not edited yet. They are straight on the camera, straight into Lightroom. So this is just a tiny adjustment that you did. For instance, this one, some of these are just, epic. And, so a question that I had before for you is, would you offer a mix, for instance, let's make a simulation. So what if Catherine would be a normal client, so to speak? Okay. Would you offer black and white and color pictures in the same reveal session, or would you go for one or the other depending on the style that you choose before?
If it's my client, I make the decision.
Okay.
I make the decision on whether I think a photograph should be black and white or not. However, I didn't here because I wanted to show the black and whites direct fast in Lightroom.
Okay.
What I usually do is I do the retouch first, and then the black and white is a final layer that goes on top. So if for any reason they don't want that black and white, all I have to do is turn that layer off, and the retouched file is underneath, is all there.
Oh, all right, makes sense. Great. Also, you basically use just one light, just one artificial light.
Usually,
right?
just
in this
one
case.
light. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
but you say usually.
Yeah.
What does it mean? Even in either ways, studios and outdoor shootings?
It depends. It depends what it is I'm looking for. Usually, I have a few go-to setups. I have a one light setup. I have a one light with a fill coming from above setup, and then I have another setup which is classic beauty. One beauty dish coming centrally and two rim lights coming from the rear pointing forwards. So it can be one light, two light, or three lights. But I would say that if I have to choose, it would be one light because it's just the most flexible, and that's it's what I can take with me to client facilities. I can't take three lights, huge strip boxes, three light stands to a client premises. I very often have to take one light, and I'll take one light and one reflector, and I've shot whole commercial jobs that way. Okay, and one practical question was, when you offer them the
the reveal session, let's say. So when it's time to see the result of the shooting, will you show them the files first, like a showreel or something? Will you show them already the things printed, like, you know, frames on a shelf, or what?
I've varied back and forth. My preference is to finish the files, take the risk, put the time in, and show them what is going to be the final result, what they're going to buy, because it's very difficult for them to say, imagine this level of retouch. They can't, so I do it and I invest that time. That's my choice. I know that many people have much more volume and they don't do that, which is absolutely fine. I have a lot of clients who will, sometimes with an entire wedding album, they know the client and they know that the client will reject any unretouched files. So they take the risk in retouching the files, knowing that the client will be so happy they will want to buy those pages, they will want to buy those images. So yeah, it's something that I think sometimes has to be weighed up with the client in question.
Yeah, I get your point. I mean, there is no strategy that fits them all, right? So it really depends on you as a photographer and the clients as well.
And I see from my retouching clients, there are many different business models and everybody has a reason for those. And it can be volume, it can be the timing. They've experimented with timing and that fast timing is key. Now, if everything has to be retouched in an album, it's going to take a long time. So they would rather sacrifice that and choose speed instead. Some prefer to wait and show them everything retouched. So it's entirely personal, it's entirely individual, and every studio has come to their own conclusions about what works best for their clients.
Speaking about editing, do you see that because of the times that we are living in, there is more attention now to editing, like there is maybe a little bit more time to think about that, so less volumes but more attention?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that people are finding more and more that it's helping a quality retouch, and I mean a quality retouch, is helping them differentiate between the millions of very capable DIY photographers out there. There aren't very many very capable, very skilled DIY retouchers. So it can sometimes be the difference between a professional product, because a professional product with fine art printing needs a beautifully edited picture to go into it. So more and more my clients are saying to me, no, go for it. I want the top level for this because this is going to be big, it's going to go on the wall. And that makes the difference between the client taking a cool iPhone picture and having it blown up and having a professionally retouched product printed on a professional finished product.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because even Julie yesterday, Julia Keller, during her masterclass, was mentioning, you know what's happening out there, that the home decor is booming, even the real estate is booming, because we are spending much more time now at home. And once you're there, you realize that maybe you would like to have a different arrangement or something, bigger and better. And you're right. At that point, we're talking about a new opportunity, a new deal, let's say, for photographers. But to grab it, in order to grab it, you have to deliver that kind of accuracy and quality. So that's why maybe so many photographers I see are much more attentive to the editing step in the workflow.
We're having to raise our game at every level, from the photography to the editing to the retouching to the product.
Yeah, and I tell you, when I see beautifully edited files like the one that you sent, I feel blessed, because I know that the technologies and the knowledge that our team is capable of is going to give justice to that. So it's like if we are literally helping and supporting and giving justice to your hard work, behind the camera and in front of the screen, so to speak. But like you said, this close the ideal circle.
Yes.
And actually, right. So and it matches the client's expectations, because when they are going to print a huge 30 by whatever, wall art, at that point, the professional work will make the difference. Yeah. Like you said, instead of a blow up file coming from wherever. So you know, it's nice to see how you were designing the pictures, how you were visualizing some of the concepts, and you were actually, I saw you yesterday during the shoot session, you were intentionally moving things, details, and playing with lights, clearly thinking about the result on the media.
Yeah,
which makes a lot of difference.
Oh, yeah.
So again, I can't thank you enough for being with us again for this live during Imaging USA Virtual Show 2021. Guys, I hope you have enjoyed this photo critique with Sarah Edmunds. Sarah, thank you again.